energy collapse globally.
Hold on, can the chat vote in the poll, please? We got 60 people, so we should have 60 votes. Top left of the screen, under my name where it says Tummler, there's a little icon. It looks like a clipboard. It's white. It's got some blue trim. You don't have to pay a gift to vote. It's free. Who's against free speech? Democrats, Republicans, the left, the right, both, neither. Go ahead and vote.
Yeah, no, it's all good. So what I was saying is that there's two primary causes to inflation. One is the
Fed and the Fed.
No, I don't think the Fed had. Well, the Fed had a little bit to do with it, but I don't think it had much to do with it.
Really?
So it was primarily supply constraints caused by the COVID-19
you already lost me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't. It doesn't matter.
Hey, do it in Sal's voice.
Do you want me to answer this question or not again?
I do, because it's going to be comical. So go ahead. Greg, did you hear that too?
I'm just sitting here letting the trap set itself.
Yeah,
go ahead, Cypher.
Everybody here is anti-Fed Reserve. I don't care. Chartalism's based. Metalism is fake. Anyways, so one, supply chain constraints caused by the entire world shutting down and reducing the amount of supply for all goods and services. People changed their buys from services in the United States to goods in the United States during a time where everybody was stuck at home. That changed our spending habits, which caused there to be additional issues with supply.
Wait, let him go. Let him go. Let him go.
We gotta know what state he's from.
The second reason is had an oil shock, an energy shock due to Russia invading Ukraine and creating this issue with energy prices globally, because after Russia invaded Ukraine, we the world put sanctions on Russia, and Russia started to export less oil to the world for various reasons, and that caused an energy collapse. And just for the record, not that it matters, I was one of the few people that predicted exactly when inflation was going to start to go down. That was August of last year. It has gone down from then pretty much every month since to where it is now, which is about 2.5% year over year inflation rates. So,
come on, Sal.
Oh, my first question is: have we ever had energy shocks before?
Yes, the 1970s.
Is it?
That was the primary one that I can point to, and actually point to why we had giant inflation in the 70s.
And who was president then? Good old peanut boy, Jimmy Carter.
I mean, it was because of the war.
What party was he from?
Yeah, that wasn't why we had an energy shock, though. Yeah, but let me answer that.
I know, but I just want to say it was a Democrat.
That's the thing, though. It wasn't because of Carter either. The reason that the energy crisis happened is because of Iran and wars between Israel and its neighbors, which caused
Yes,
it was because Saudi Arabia stopped producing as much oil as well.
Gas lines. I went down to get lawnmower gas on my bicycle, dude. And as soon as Ronald Reagan got in there, kind of funny how it wasn't even 3 months after Reagan got in there, everything was back to normal.
It was not. It actually took until 1984.
You weren't even fucking alive then, dude. I'm calling bullshit on your bullshit.
It doesn't matter if I was alive or not. I have the data to back me up.
Nobody's talking about shit that happened when I was fucking a teenager and shit.
Okay. There's been more than several energy crises in America since the 70s. None of them have caused between 40, well, I'll be generous, between 20 and 40% inflation in prices. So I would like to know why those didn't do that, and this one supposedly did. Second of all, I'm just curious what your thoughts are in terms of money supply. If the Fed creates a fuck ton of money in the trillions in terms of the money supply, does that not cause inflation?
Okay, so the 70s had year-over-year inflation during the energy crisis of roughly 10% every year. So cumulative inflation between 1972 and 1982, which is when inflation was finally tamed thanks to Volcker and changes in how Americans did business in general. That cumulative was like
what
60.
What did Volcker do?
He raised interest rates to the point that people stopped expecting pay raises. And once people stopped expecting pay raises, they actually changed their.
That's why he raised interest rates.
No, he raised interest rates because
because of pay raises.
No,
I'm getting dumber, man. Hey, I gotta say something. I'm sorry if this pisses you off down there, but I gotta say something, man. When Jimmy Carter was president, interest rates were 17 and 18 fucking percent. I bought my first house, and that was a VA loan.
Yes, Volcker started raising interest rates in 78.
Hold on, God damn it. When I bought my first house, the VA rate was 10%. Then when I went to war in 91, Bush, they knocked them down from 10 to 7%. And I got a 15-year mortgage, and my house payment went down $5. And I saved like 150 grand on my shit. But interest rates were 17, 18%. It was uber inflation caused by fucking Jimmy Carter.
Well, okay, it doesn't matter. We're going to ignore this and get back.
It does matter, and I'll get into Jimmy Carter in a minute, but you go ahead.
Well, I mean,
I'll let you do it, Greg,
fine. I mean,
this.
if people are just going to keep talking, we're never going to get this done. So it's fine. Go ahead, Gregory. I don't care.
I haven't said a word. You finish your thought, and then I'll talk.
No, I thought I don't even know where it was because I got interrupted again. So go ahead.
Okay, we're on Jimmy Carter. All right, first of all, his piss-poor energy policy and the massive ramp-ups in EPA regulations, coupled with the fact that we went into China, made friends with them, and ultimately started doing trade with them, reduced the ability for us to really transact oil in a meaningful way. Again, also making issues with the Saudis. We rely on 75% of our oil at the time for natural production of petroleum-based goods in this country. And at the time, I'm on a hill, only 25% for motor vehicles, which were also being devastated by EPA regulations. Subsequently, that brought our oil economy down. We are based on an oil economy, and that was stage one. The Fed raising interest rates only exacerbated this, making it impossible for the homeowner to buy a house or to refinance a house. And at the time, we didn't have federal agencies that acted on a conforming basis, so it was up to the banks to lend money. Go ahead. I'm on a hill, so I'm going to take a breath.
Wait, just to clarify, are we really arguing that like the wars in the Middle East didn't heavily contribute to inflation in the 1980s and 70s?
Apparently, I guess it's all the EPA regulations.
Again, I'm just asking why did the first time how many times did Bush invade Iraq?
But when he first
No. Wait. You're new up here. Relax. Okay.
Oh.
You can talk. You don't have to word salad. We're not going to kick you, ban you, anything
I'm not
like
even
that. So
word
relax.
salad. What?
So how many times did Bush invade Iraq? Twice. Okay. We invaded Iraq as well. We've had intervention in the Middle East forever. We've caused a lot of problems over there. How come that never, not once, caused inflation?
It did, though. That's what the 70s happened. The 70s had major oil supply shocks.
Iraq and Afghanistan were not in the 70s, bro.
It was in the 90s. I was there.
Okay, but we were talking about Carter. It's not the interventions in the Middle East. It's what they did when those interventions happened. The Middle East didn't.
What did we do did something happen in 1971 that might have caused inflation?
I know what you're going to say.
Cyber, I just gave a 3-second synopsis on why Jimmy Carter kind of screwed us up. But no, we need to jump way forward of that right now.
I know what you're going to say, so it doesn't matter.
You never answered my first question. What in your opinion, what happens when you increase the money supply by trillions of dollars?
I didn't answer your question because everybody was talking. Okay, so if you increase the money supply, it depends on what happens with that money supply. If it increases money velocity as well, then you will have an increase in inflation. That's to be expected. The straight increase of money supply does not automatically increase the inflation, because if it's not being spent by anybody, it's not going to go anywhere. That means it's not going to. They're not going to have dollars.
No, what you just said is half true. It causes inflation at varying degrees depending on the velocity.
That's what I'm
but
saying.
You can't, no, you just said you can print a ton of money.
If it doesn't get spent on anything, i.e. money velocity, then it is not going to increase the price of goods and services. If it is being spent by people, then it will increase the inflation, and by a modest amount, not necessarily a huge amount. It depends on how much goods and services are able to come online to absorb that new supply and money.
But printing all that money, and it had to go somewhere. Where do you think it went? He didn't just print it and put it in a fucking warehouse somewhere.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's not an absolute thing. That's my point. So if the money goes and chases assets,
not true.
If money goes and chases assets like it did in the 90s, you're not going to have a bunch of prices at the grocery store go up because everybody's chasing assets. If it does go and chase groceries, housing, medical care, etc., then you're going to have an increase in those prices because the money supply increased and more people have money, and therefore we're chasing those goods and services. If the goods and services are able to actually keep pace with the increase in the money supply, then you would be able to tamp down on the increase of inflation, because those goods and services that are coming online to meet that new demand are able to absorb that without increasing the prices as much. This is just common sense.
Well,
What
unfortunately,
you said is not true.
No, yeah.
It's
It's
absolutely true.
No, it's not.
Anytime you inflate the money supply, you're going to create inflation.
Okay.
The
so
velocity
let's do this.
is going to affect how quickly the inflation
Let's
comes.
do this. Let's do this. You double the amount of money in the economy, and you double the amount of goods and services in the economy. Why would the amount of inflation increase? It's not Keynesian.
Yeah,
This
but
is actually
Modern monetary.
Even taking
This is
CD
actually
or
following
CD,
Milton Friedman.
even
This is
taking
using
CD
Milton
into
Friedman's
consideration. I know, but even taking CD into consideration, we haven't had this much inflation in 40 fucking years, dude. So
Correct.
I mean,
We also haven't had a pandemic in like 200. Oh,
no,
100.
it's been 100, but you're close.
Okay. I want you to walk me through this graph. Hold on a second. I just want to see what you're gonna say. The fuck did I put it?
Can you make it a little? Okay, I was about to say.
Okay, walk me through this.
Well, let me read it real quick.
It's M2, by the way. You probably can't read it, but the top left is too small.
Oh, okay, so it's all M2 supply. Inflation Reduction Act in Ukraine. It looks like the Fed started increasing interest rates right around.
It's not interest rates.
No, I know, but I'm saying, you want me to explain this, right? So the Fed started increasing interest rates right around 2020, halfway through
Not true.
2023.
They started in 2016 when Trump was elected.
After it was at historic lows.
That historic, I mean, depending on your time frame of historic.
I also have something to say about that as well.
It was negative, wasn't? I mean, it wasn't negative for the U.S., but it was negative for the world.
Most
had
most of
1.1 or something.
Most of between now and 2000, we were as close to zero as possible.
Yeah, because of Greenspan propping up.
I'm just saying, as soon as Trump got elected, we started QT and we started raising interest rates. It didn't start.
Do you think that was because Trump got elected, or do you think it just is a timing thing?
I think it was because Trump got elected. Yes.
Well, we're never going to agree then. It's a timing issue.
It was just a huge coincidence that he just got elected.
No, it wasn't a huge coincidence he got elected. If I was the Fed and I was going to raise interest rates after the 2008 recession, I would raise them around the same time that they did, give or take a year.
Years later?
Give or take because of how bad the economy was.
Just a big coincidence. Okay. I don't want to argue about that. That's fucking stupid. But continue. Take us through this graph. What does this graph mean
Yes,
to you?
8 years later. When did the American consumer actually start spending enough money to be outside of the window?
No, not after the 2008 housing crash.
The '08 crash caused such a drift in people's ability and psychology to spend money that people did not start feeling good about the economy until 2015.
It's not true, actually.
What are you
That
talking
actually
about?
Very true. Look at
Let me
consumers.
jump in there
look
whenever
at
you want,
consumer,
Tummler.
Look at consumer confidence.
Not everybody is a homeowner. So if you weren't involved in all that and you weren't in finance, you actually weren't that affected by that
Are you
crash.
serious?
Consumer
Wait, are you
confidence
really
I am
saying that
serious.
only
was
homes
under
wait,
80%.
wait, are you saying that only homeowners were the wait,
Not
can I
spending,
ask really
confidence.
fast? Wait,
There's
are you saying
three
that only
people trying to
homeowners?
talk at once right now. Is
Yeah, are you saying that only homeowners were impacted by the 2008 financial crisis?
that what I just said?
No, she's asking because people
Yeah, I'm
started
just
talking.
asking.
Okay, so somebody who didn't work in finance and didn't own a home and didn't work at a bank, how were they affected by the 2008 collapse?
They also lost their job because of
They
contagion.
didn't.
A lot of people did.
I'm just saying, a lot of people didn't.
Contagion took out GE. It took out GM, or almost
Okay,
did.
I didn't work there.
It doesn't matter if you didn't work there. It's millions of jobs, dude. Those are one of the two biggest manufacturing companies in the United States. How many people had? How much of the government had to like get businesses to buy other businesses to keep them afloat?
Even the airline businesses, a few of them had to like save from the government.
Yeah.
How many bailouts did they get?
How many
It was a
bailouts
lot
did
of
Obama issue there?
So you're saying that right here when the unemployment
What
went
is this
up,
chart?
okay? Follow the red line, not the blue.
No,
line,
I just
right here.
what is the chart? I don't know what it is.
This is U3. The red line is U3.
U3. So unemployment 3. That is
That's the headline unemployment.
that's the headline
is what they
unemployment.
call it.
Okay, just making sure.
So here's 2008, right? So you're saying right here is where you would start raising interest rates?
No, I said a year or two before, give or take a year or two. So it could have been, I would have, depending on when things happened, it could have either been 2015, end of 2015, or
It was end of
2017.
2015.
Okay.
But yeah,
Continue.
but if you go bring that chart back up. This is U2, this is U3, right? So unemployment went
That
down
is
by how
U3.
much? Yeah, how much did it go down? It went down to under 5%, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when feds consider the economy to be at full employment.
Yes. And that's when they started increasing.
And that's when they started increasing the things. So, I mean, that just goes to my point that it was really a timing thing. We could have gotten there quicker.
So you're saying during this period right here, above 5%, they were raising interest rates?
No, I'm
Is that
saying,
your argument?
did they raise interest rates at that point? I didn't say that.
No, you're saying when they hit what they called full employment at 5%.
After having it at historic lows, yes.
Okay, so this period right here is pretty similar to this period, right?
What was
So
the,
I would expect interest rates to be going up.
Oh
at
wait,
this
wait.
period,
The
so
Fed
let's go
doesn't
check it out.
respond. The Fed doesn't simply like respond to like unemployment rates. Like that's not how. It
Correct.
works.
She's
But it
right. That was my point.
That's why he keeps saying like the all-time lows. That's why the Feds got involved after the housing crisis, like keeping them low.
between quantitative easing
What
and
crisis did we have right here?
.com
You're
trust and 9/11.
This is making my head hurt.
Wait,
It shouldn't make your head hurt. Everything I'm saying is factual. What are you talking about?
But what do you disagree with though? Like if not the unemployment rate, what were they lowering interest rates for?
Fine.
Cyber, go on. I want to hear you. You left off at quantitative easing. Keep going, please.
But
Yeah, I said after
okay.
quantitative easing and the lowered interest rates, you could make the argument that we were at negative rates.
And
money everywhere.
do you view quantitative easing as being a productive policy or a negative policy for the United States?
That's a hard one. Generally speaking, I would say it's going to be generally negative but probably because of different reasons. Someone's dogs are barking. It's probably yours. But
Nah, my boy's quiet.
it's all good. So I don't like the idea of quantitative easing because what it does is that it buys debt from already rich and powerful people and gives them money for it, which allows them to take on more debt and do more things that actually increases inequality in the system. And that's not just income inequality or wealth inequality. That gives them more tools to like manipulate politics and things like that. So generally speaking, I am not one to like QE. Now, if we're going to do QE, if that is something that we have to do because the federal government isn't necessarily stepping in to actually prop up the economy and help people out, then when you start to wind it down, what you should do is not sell it to those same people at a discount. You should sell it to everyday Americans at a discount so they can actually have a bit more wealth in their 401ks or IRAs or what have you, and actually prosper from when America is prospering.
Okay, my turn. You're looking at it more from a retail standpoint, and I look at it more from an institutional standpoint. I think that quantitative easing was one of the most destructive policies in American history. And the reason you saw lowering interest rates after that is because the Fed taking back so much of its debt totally disincentivized any homeowner from buying a new house because they were terrified of the wildfire housing economy that was about to ensue once the default rate became exceptional and everybody started losing their houses in the 2008 crash.
But the quantitative easing didn't start until after 08, right?
That's correct. We did the bailouts, and then they started quantitative easing after they saw that there was a rash of housing sales that was the most explosive sales rate in the history of the United States. Between 2008 and 2010, we saw more single-family residences change hands than in the history of America. The reason
because the housing market was overly inflated due to a combination of government policy and a derivative market, making it to where they couldn't lose money by selling houses to people that couldn't afford them, and that caused contagion because they were bundling it in with good mortgages. They're bundling good mortgages with bad mortgages, and everybody was betting on the market, doing insurance swaps and all that stuff, which caused the contagion, which we were talking about, which is why everybody was pretty much impacted by the 08 recession.
Well, at least you do understand the housing market, which I appreciate. So that's good.
Yeah. Like, like a lot of people on the right say that the reason why we had the massive housing issues is because of Bill Clinton reducing the
Minority
rules.
Housing Act.
Yeah, the Minority Housing Act.
But
that's
just
not
him.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, they like to blame that, but if we didn't have the derivative market, the contagion wouldn't have happened, and the people that actually got those.
That's not true. The derivative market didn't cause it.
The derivative market was essential, and I'm a derivatives trader.
The derivative market was a way for people to try to make profit off of bad behavior that the government was trying to force them to do, which is getting everybody a fucking home.
Started to come out before that, and then everybody was talking about repealing the last. Gregory, can you mute yourself, please? Thank you. So the derivative market actually started happening in, I believe, 98. So not enough time for the Housing Act changes to actually take into effect. This was a giant financial manipulation of the markets in order for people to be able to make money and bets off of that market. Then we were after Glass-Steagall was repealed, which was another mistake that we shouldn't have gotten into, and that allowed all this to happen. So if it wasn't for the derivatives, the contagion wouldn't have happened because it wouldn't have had anything to latch itself onto with these bets and derivative default swaps. So if we didn't have that, we wouldn't have had the giant housing crisis.
Not true.
And the reason
it started with Carter. Biden put it on steroids. Bush put it on bigger steroids.
Let me finish my point, please.
I've been letting you talk for 10 minutes straight. I barely got a word in edgewise. It's my live.
I was just about to finish my point. I'm sorry, it is your live. I didn't realize the host was talking, or else I would have shut up quicker. My bad.
It's fine. I'm just saying, you've been having a conversation for 10 minutes. I haven't got a word in edgewise, but go ahead.
Yeah, so sorry about that. But the point that I was going to make was that had like I said, all the derivative stuff, but fuck, now I lost it. Sorry, man. Go ahead.
So it wasn't an overnight thing. It started with Carter. Clinton kept going with it. Bush was involved in it too. Bush was out there trying to get people in homes too.
Oh, okay. So I remember my point.
This was a giant government program that was run by both parties. It's
So
not
when I
one
could go
party.
in.
Sure. I remember my point though. So the people that were actually helped by housing assistance and stuff, they were actually one of the few people to actually not default. It was the people that were, there was more upper class people, upper middle class people that were defaulting because they knew they could default and then get a cheaper house by defaulting and moving out of their homes. So that's why you saw a high rate of people that could pay their mortgage every month not happening and all defaulting on their own. Go ahead, Greg. I'm done.
Okay, so actually the
I don't
derivatives market
necessarily
did not
agree with
start.
that. I
Hang
don't know
on.
if I agree with that or not because my buddy, we did clean outs on houses in Indiana, and it wasn't just upper middle class. It was a lot of lower middle class homes too. They were selling people. They were selling people like $300,000 homes. People working at McDonald's, and they knew damn well they couldn't afford that shit. And there was 3 or 4 families living in that house, and then they would get them on those balloon rates where, like, when the interest rates would go up, it made their house payment go up, and then that's when everybody started losing their shit.
Let me
You
make
gotta have
one
a
clear.
fixed rate when you buy a house. You have to have it because I've had 5 houses and never lost any of them.
Thank you. All right, so first of all, the derivatives market did not start in 98. It started around 88 when we started taking specified pools and creating collateralized mortgage obligations out of them, which became ultimately the vehicle for the true derivative. The reason we created derivatives, and it started with a very, very simple binary one called the IOPO, which is interest only and principal only, is we were able to strip the coupon off of the actual mortgage-backed security and create 2 separate pools, subsequently equating a zero-sum game bet. Some people in the market had issues one way, some had it the other. But what our main issue was to create a hedging instrument against liabilities for banks that were creating loans. The reason we leveraged it is so if a bank was making $1 billion worth of loans, they only needed to buy between 100 million or so of our instrument because of the leverage, and their duration would remain at 0. That is how we created the derivatives market. It was one of the most essential products in the U.S. economy for the housing market because it enabled actors to participate in the market with less money, and subsequently the Fed wouldn't have to introduce more money to the market.
And I just looked it up just to see if I can get sources because I right off the bat I just knew that what you were saying was wrong. The housing collapse dramatically affected the poor and middle class more. If you want the sources, there's 10 sources on here, including the Federal Reserve,
Yeah, I was.
in Oxford research paper, Center for American Progress, NBR,
Yeah, no. I
MIT
agree. I have
Sloan.
a clarifying point. So what I meant was is that upper middle class people started to default at higher rates than those people that would put on ARM loans, because the ARM loan people tend to be like, this is our first time owning a house. We don't know when we're going to get another one. We had decent rates. Let's try to keep this house and keep it in our family.
Because the market was being pushed into giving homes to people who shouldn't have homes, was the point.
The thing was, a Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, Ginnie Mae, FHA, VA loan at the time garnered about a $2,000 to $2,600 fee, and an adjustable rate mortgage, which was usually a strip coupon, it initially started off with a teaser rate of like 1 or 2% or even 0%, putting the people immediately into negative AM. Then it went to a formula that usually worked against LIBOR, CMT, coffee, or one of the other indexes. Subsequently, also at a leverage rate. So no, I mean, it was not just people trying to get into that home and live. It was people gambling on the market where generally it was really truly meant originally to be a builder's loan for people that had short-term needs and could get in and out of the house quickly. But America started betting on the housing market, and they lost. Yeah. Unfortunately, it incentivized an awful lot of real estate salesmen, or rather loan salesmen, to start creating these loans because the fees were so high, and we were restructuring them at such a banshee rate that the money wheels just kept going and going and going.
Yeah, everything you just said, I 100% agree with. I would, like I said, my clarifying point was just that people that could afford them also started at a default because it was in their best interest to financially.
Can we get back to the graph on the screen so I can get it off the screen? I want you to walk me through that and explain how that had nothing to do with inflation.
I didn't say it had nothing to do with inflation. I said the top two contributors to inflation were the things I said. Didn't say it had nothing to do with it. I would put that.
You said that this has very minimal to do with it. So I'd like you
Correct.
to go walk us through the graph, what it's telling you, and how that has minimal to do with inflation.
This graph is saying that the money supply increased dramatically between 2000. Is it 2000? 2020?
Hold on.
Just where's that bend? Is that on 2020? The CARES Act? Yeah, so the money supply started to go with the CARES Act, although that was Biden takes office 2021. Okay, yeah, okay. Payment protection. That was the other thing. I think payment protection program was actually done very poorly. I didn't like how they did that.
So here's the thing too, because if it wasn't that long ago, right? So do you remember what the criticism of Trump was with the spending programs?
No, I honestly
by the left and Biden
Trump,
and
Trump was
his
said
criticism that he didn't spend enough. They said the spending programs weren't enough. If you don't, I can pull up sources.
No. I just don't. I honestly didn't recall. So okay. I'm going to take your word for it because I don't think that it matters.
And he's this big dictator. What did the left? What was the other criticism of him? What did they want him to do in terms of control over whether states closed up or stayed open?
I honestly do not know what
they wanted him to have more federal control and force states to close up that didn't want to. Do you remember that?
No, I actually do not recall that.
Nobody remembers that?
No, I'm sure that it probably happened, but I don't know. When you say the left, I don't know who you mean by that.
MSNBC, ABC, CNN, the Democrat Party.
I'm from Australia and I heard that. So come on.
What's up, brother?
So my point is, if the states what was his response as someone who wants to be a fascist dictator? It was this. It's up to the state governors to decide what they want to do because he's a big dictator. He left it up to them. So some states decided to close. So what would have happened to Trump at that point if he said, well, fuck those states. We're not going to help them out. If you close down, you're screwed. You're on your own.
I think that... Wait, what? Sorry.
So he didn't force states to close, right? Okay. Now, they did.
Mm-hmm.
If he turned around and said, well, it was your decision. You're on your own. Would that have been politically popular for any president to do?
No, absolutely not.
So he had to get the CARES Act out there, the all of that spending that we did. Okay?
The triple P loans. Yeah. I'm not disagreeing. Like,
here's my point, though. Biden takes office. Did we really need to print more money? I even put the C-19D low on there. Indicates the low that we hit in deaths at C-19. We lots of people were starting to open up. We were starting to come out of it. Did we need to continue to print billions and billions and billions of dollars?
No, I understand what his point is. You don't have to. I get the point.
And the spending that Biden did went directly into the economy, did it not? Did it not increase the velocity?
I didn't say that it didn't. I said we're disagreeing on scale here. That's all that's happening. I'm not saying it doesn't have any. I'm not saying this had no impact on inflation.
So we doubled the money supply. We doubled it. You can see it in front of you.
Yes,
and you're saying that didn't cause inflation?
I'm saying it's not the primary cause.
Doubling the money supply is not the primary cause.
In list of causes for this, it would, in my opinion, it would go the global shutdown, then the energy crisis, then the Federal Reserve.
I don't even understand that mindset. I'm sorry. We'll just have to agree to disagree. I don't get it.
And we also had companies increasing their margins using inflation as a reason for justification. That would even be lower than that. I would put that lower than the Fed.
Explain your
so they were
energy
price
crisis.
gouging, huh?
Say again. I heard
price gouging.
I'm hesitant to call it gouging because it wasn't like exorbitant.
Without showing you what these lines represent first. Do these lines look like they're following each other?
Yeah, sure.
Not sure. I mean, they are. No.
I said, yeah, sure. I'm agreeing with you. Just show me what the graph is, man.
It's PPI versus CPI.
Okay.
So if they were price gouging, wouldn't you expect PPI to be far lower than CPI?
What's PPI?
That's not a trick question.
No, I just don't know what PPI stands for. Again.
It's Producer Price Index, so it's the inflation on the producer side.
Yeah, but it wasn't production that was the primary. Anyways.
No. So if they were increasing inflation to drive their margin, it rather than just responding to inflationary pressure, you would expect PPI to be lower than CPI, right?
You would expect there to be a gap, a pretty significant gap. Not necessarily the whole gap, but I'm sorry, not necessarily. They would follow the same trend lines, but if companies are charging more to
let me put this on my other screen so you can see my cursor, because I don't think you're following what I'm.
No, I am following what you're saying. I'm trying to explain why I don't entirely agree with you.
Hey, look. See this equilibrium here?
Yep.
Where my cursor is?
Yep.
That's generally what it looks like. Then all of a sudden you see PPI shoot up.
Yep.
How come it's higher than the consumer inflationary price pressure?
Lag.
Lag?
Yes. Just like how it dropped significantly, the CPI did not drop significantly to match.
So
it.
if it was just that, then why did it come down before consumers? Afterwards, why did it start to naturally try to find an equilibrium?
Wait, okay, which color is
and
which
then dipped
line?
again, and it's coming again. The dark orange and the light orange are PPI. Those are producers.
That's what I figured. Okay, I'm just making sure.
Yeah.
And then green is CPI, right?
So it looks to me, and if you're in business or retail or anybody who sells products, you can kind of relate this to your business. It looks to me like it hit a peak.
Yep.
Where consumers couldn't go anymore, and inflationary pressures started to release. Right. You can see it.
Look at that gap, though.
This is a reaction to inflation.
Gap. Look at the huge gap.
Of course there is. Do you own a business? How do you know what price to set it at? Of course there's going to be a gap. You don't know where to put the price. If you raise your prices in May, how do you know what inflation is going to be in September? You don't. So of course there's going to be a gap because this is unexpected.
A gap of like 8 months?
A business owner can't predict inflation. They can't predict when it's going to happen. They can't predict when it's going to go up or down. They're just running the business.
Isn't that a gap of about 8 months?
What are you talking about?
Between the green line and the
orange line.
Maybe I'm not. Can someone? Maybe the way I'm explaining this.
No, I understand what you're saying. We just disagree.
Tumbler, it's not the way that you're explaining. I'm understanding.
Bro, when businesses set prices, they have to think at least 2 quarters out. Because that's usually how long it takes to put up your products, how to order your products, new what is it, rotations. Help me out here with this, Tumbler.
Well, yeah, it depends on your business. Like if you're...
Yeah, no shit. I get that.
Right, so you have to predict at least 2 quarters out, which is 6 months.
Well, it also depends on what kind of business you have. If you're a large corporation, you're buying inventory for 2 or 3 quarters into the year. You're not buying a month's worth of inventory.
So I'm just supposed to ignore that Kraft Foods have said that we're going to increase our profits by increase our margins by jacking up prices. And that's where most of our profits our profit margin's gonna come from.
Bro, think of eggs. How long does it take to order eggs, bro?
It doesn't matter.
It takes at least 6 to 8 weeks to order eggs ahead of time because you have to place your order. The vendors have to confirm it. Then the vendors have to harvest it. Then they have to set prices.
Okay, so you want me to ignore all the companies that came out and said that they were to their shareholders that we're going to see an increase, we're going to jack up our margins by increasing prices beyond what inflation is?
Bro, you're thinking of Kroger and they got caught with 2 products.
I'm not talking about Kroger. I'm talking
Yes, you
about
are, because
Kraft.
they're the ones that specifically said that.
I'm talking about Kraft specifically when it comes to groceries. I'm talking about how we jacked up prices at my business in order to jack up our margins because we were having an issue with getting chips and stuff, and how we ended up passing that off to the consumer as well at an additional rate than what we were getting charged at.
And what was your industry?
It's cloud computing.
So service based.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's goods, but yeah, sure, because we sell physical products and other stuff.
So when you're doing cloud computing, like cloud based servers, for example, how long does it take to bring a server online?
Not very long.
How long does it take from conception to ordering the product to receiving the product to programming it to putting it online?
Oh, I actually can't answer that question because I don't know. So.
It's roughly about 8 months.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
Well, because my cousin used to work for HP. He did the same thing.
Okay.
It's about 8 months. So you have to plan ahead for your products, and if you're experiencing hyperinflation like that, you gotta jack up the price on that, especially if you're going to experience inflation via ordering, processing, and then the service to the end user. You know, the only people that actually I'll give you an example. I used to work in insurance. We had to plan our prices out like almost a year in advance, because we had to get everything sent to the Department of Insurance for each individual state. We had to review it. We had to counter it. We had to appeal it. We had to plead our cases. Like, when it comes to insurance, we just don't raise the prices. We have to get approval to raise the prices. And usually that's about 9 to 12 months out. So just like retail, just like your job, just like everywhere else, you have to plan ahead, way ahead. Nobody except maybe a mom and pop shop will order their products for like the next month, unless they're running a very, very small margin.
This is very hard to find some of the stuff. Hold on a sec.
I mean, Tummler can verify this. Like in retail, I'm not going to tell who or where or what you do, but in retail, generalistically speaking, say you're a clothing company, you're ordering your product for the next 2 or 3 seasons, correct?
It depends on your product. It depends on your business models. So the company I was working, that's why the whole supply chain thing pisses me off when people are like, the supply chain caused inflation. Like the industry I was in at the time, my stores were selling art supplies. So I always use the example of canvas. We were sourcing canvas like every other fucking company from China. They were made in Italy and somewhere else. For whatever reason, they were shipped from China to America. The average cost of a container, where they just have tens of thousands of canvas, we'd buy them by bulk, was like 5 to 7 G's per container. During COVID, it went up to 70. It peaked out at $75,000 for a container for the same amount of canvas. Now, in the art industry, that's a staple product. So, what we weren't looking at the price it was costing us to ship it over here and sell it, because you have to sell that product. You can't just not sell it, right? You have to sell it, because if I'm coming in for canvas, I need paint, I need brushes, I need a million other things. That's called a loss lead. So we were selling it at a loss purposely. because we were selling everything else. So to try to make up for the margin, we increased the prices on the products you buy with that. Where we had a profit margin, we just increased it. That's what Kroger admitted to in their emails, and people conflated that and said they're admitting to price gouging. That's not what they were saying. They were talking about taking losses on loss leads and making it up on other products so that they weren't losing their profit margin. It's the same thing we did.
Just like that district manager that comes into, your live that works for Walmart. He was taking a loss on the groceries, but raising the prices on other things to make up for it.
Right, and there were other products during. Most of the store, honestly, was not affected by. That's the thing. You don't even call it inflation. The price went up. Inflation.
Yeah, but Tumbler policy has a lot to do with it too, man. Because hey, hold on a second, guys. Policy has a lot to do with it too, because Gavin Newsom out in California, when they had ship after ship after ship after ship sitting out there, and they couldn't come into the port of LA because the Gavin Newsom outlawed all like old trucks in California. So all the people that were doing the containers, they put so many Spanish people and so many people out of work, like the older trucks that had the older trucks. And then when it got all fucked up, and they had like 60 or 70 ships out there waiting to get offloaded because they can't offload them in 15 minutes, guys. It takes a fucking minute. And then hold on. Right, Long Beach too, dude. Long Beach plus LA. And then he goes, oh, well, I'm sorry, guys. After he ruined everybody's businesses and put people out of fucking work and all this shit, then he goes, well, come on back and we'll figure something out. In other words, they wanted everybody to come back and bail his dumb ass out. And then after he bailed them out, he turned around and fuck them again. I was in trucking for 23 years, dude. I know how it fucking works. Right now, Gavin Newsom's trying to outlaw diesel vehicles in California, like diesel motorhomes or whatever. Motorhomes.
Diesel vehicles.
And now New York, all the other communist states are trying to follow this dumbass shit. And so people are spending $300,000 and $400,000 for these beautiful motorhomes so they can retire, and they're just fucking everybody's shit up. These people shouldn't be in charge of putting toilet paper in a fucking bathroom.
I thought those trucking rules went into were staggered in.
No, it wasn't. California does the dumbest fucking shit.
Oh, yeah.
Trucking industry is the most overregulated. They got three. You got NSA. You got three DOT. You got three different fucking organizations. They're the most overregulated fucking industry that there is. And then they wonder why it's all fucked up.
Okay, I finally found what I was looking for. So, here's Kraft's gross margin. It was higher in 2016 than it's been even today. It went down steadily. It went up during COVID. They had their worst year in 2022, and it started to go back up in 2023. So my question is, who was accusing Kraft Heinz of price gouging in 2016? I'll wait.
Kraft themselves.
Look right there, Cypher. You see that 2019 to 2020? That's what you assume is price gouging.
No,
because what people look at is they look at net margin. Net margin means nothing
I am not
when you're in an inflationary period.
I am talking about what Kraft